This is Up for Debate presents The Ballad of Rocky Balboa. Tonight, episode number 179, recorded May 7th, 2020. Rocky 2. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Up for Debate presents. I am Sean Jennings, joined by the man who said there wasn't going to be a rematch, and yet he came back for the sequel. It's Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
Hey, how are we doing today, Sean? Looks like you finally got that rematch.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to describe myself today, it's I'm crap. I'm gonna screw up the quote. I'm spitting lightning and shitting thunder. What's the quote?
I believe it was. You were close. You were close. It's shoot lightning and crap thunder. I'm pretty sure.
Eating lightning, crap, and thunder. I don't something like that.
Oh, eat. It was. I think it's all right. That sounds. Eat lightning and crap thunder. I'll go with that.
Yeah, sure.
But although I think I would probably rather shoot lightning than eat it.
I don't really want to get into that discussion. Oh, it says here you're gonna eat lightning. You're gonna crap thunder.
There
Oh,
you
Mickey.
go. Man, Mickey.
I do feel like this movie had.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I do feel like this movie had better one-liners than the first one.
Okay.
As
So
I think
coming
about-
eight. Um, I think this movie had a lot of better ideas than the first one. A lot of just a lot of people for a lot of people, Rocky 2 is the best Rocky. A lot of people consider it their favorite. I feel like depending on the type of person you are, it really does kind of run the gambit. I've heard anybody will say that any of them really one through four are favorite. It just depends on what you like to see in movies, if that makes sense. But Rocky 2 was pretty. It's pretty strong. I bet if you took a poll of viewers, I don't have any data in front of me, but I bet if you took a poll and you asked the average Rocky fan which movie was their favorite, I'd say 2 is probably their favorite.
Well, if you go by Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic, Rocky 1 scores more. If you go by Academy Awards, Rocky 1 scores more. If you go by the box office, Rocky 1 scores more. Did you like the sequel better than the original?
I did. I definitely did. I just feel like that's like a word on the street kind of. I don't know. Everybody I've talked to, they've always said that they like Rocky 2 the most. I actually my personal, I think I addressed this on the first episode. My personal favorite is Rocky 3, which is another popular choice. But this one, Rocky 2, comes out in 1979. It premieres almost 3 years.
Yep.
Following the initial release of the flagship Rocky film. It stars Sylvester Stallone,
He's
Carl
back.
Weathers, Tony. So yep, Carl Weathers is back, reprising his role as the famous Apollo Creed. I think one of the biggest takeaways we had from the first episode that really gave me a lot of food for thought was, I mean, I think you said you could have watched an entire movie featuring Apollo Creed.
I was sitting through Rocky 2 and said, I'm glad there's more Creed, but
Yes.
I need more Creed. Don't hold off back. Like, we got to see like the inside of Creed's home, and we got to see him training, and I was like, oh, this is, I whatever character that is, that sort of like publicly trash talks over the top guy, but secretly is worried and concerned. Like, that's so appealing to me. To me, the problem with Rocky is Rocky's arc is like he's a stupid dumb guy, and then he's a stupid dumb guy who's good at boxing, and then he's still a stupid dumb guy, but now he's married. Like, there's not a ton of character arc or complexity, I would say, to the Rocky character versus Apollo, who I just think is more interesting.
See, I think you're looking at it differently, because I don't think it's not the Rocky as a character evolving. It's it's Rocky's circumstances and how he unwaveringly does not change to any of them, and yet still things are become okay,
Yeah, but that's
which I think
boring.
are.
Because I thought, early in this movie, we get I'm waiting, right? Because we have the moment where Rocky's like, "Hey, babe, we're gonna go out and get ourselves some nice things. Look, we'll get Trans Am. It'll be great." They buy the car, they go and they buy the watches, and I'm like, finally, Rocky, we're gonna get some development of a character. Rocky's gonna go from being the hero to being the villain, the sort of corrupted guy from the money and the success of the first fight. He doesn't change. Like I was wait, they
Well,
set it up and didn't do anything.
I'll say about that. Just wait. Just wait a little bit. Wait a little while for that.
Oh, great! It takes
But
three movies to kick into gear. Awesome.
maybe four. But just wait into that. Wait, because like that is an idea that I promise does get
It's a good
explored
idea.
by the Rocky films. Yes, it does. And I think it's more the recent movies that kind of explain that, like after the aftermath, like the when a star's glow has faded, what their life is kind of like. That's more like Rocky and uh, Creed. They kind of explore that path a little more. But um, I can tell you that that path does go. The movies do go down that path at some point, just not in this movie. This movie is more him. I think this is the establishment. Like if you look at all the Rocky movies as kind of like a wave, um, the first movie, he's the wave is rising. Rocky 2, he hasn't quite peaked yet. That's going to come later. 2, he's at the almost at the apex. He like is by the end of the film, you could argue he is like set his first foot on the apex of the wave. And then I won't spoil it from that point on. But it does. There are ups and downs. I think they explore that in later films.
The thing about this movie, if I had to sum up my feelings on this movie, it's I love the concept of this movie on paper. I do, because when you think about some of these great sports films, of which I would argue the original Rocky is one of them, it has that traditional arc of, the nobody wins the fight in the end, falls in love, gets the girl at the end, and that's fine. I've got no beef with that. But the idea of what happens immediately after that, and how do these characters change and respond, and one thing I really enjoyed about Rocky 2, if you think about it, it's exactly the same characters as the first movie. They don't add any new characters in the second movie, which is crazy to think about for a sequel. And by the way, Matt, I can give you a piece of trivia here. There's only one named character who is played by a different actor in this movie versus the first movie. Do you know who it is?
One named character who's played by a different actor, huh?
Yeah.
Um, would it is this like something that's really obvious, or is it like you
I mean,
kind of have to be
it's
looking
not
for
Rocky, but it's certainly a lesser character. But if you think about it, there's only like 12 characters in this movie.
Is it Apollo Creed's coach?
No, good guess. You're close, but that's not it.
Okay, not his coach or his trainer.
Nope.
Well, we know it's not Burgess Meredith.
No,
He's rocking it in this movie too. Yeah, he's fantastic. Is it one of Rocky's trainers? Is it the other guy that's not Burgess Meredith?
Nope, those guys are all the same. No, it is Creed's wife, Marianne Creed, is played by a different actress in this movie.
Oh, see, I didn't even really notice. I didn't even really give it a second thought.
I mean, she's not in a lot of it, so I didn't know.
Is there
a
specific reason?
Not that Wikipedia says. Not that Wikipedia says. So anyway, just to circle back to my point, I love the concept of following these people and what happens in their lives. I just don't think this movie successfully executed that.
Interesting. So what went wrong for you? What could have been done better here?
It's the character of Rocky. I've watched 2 movies of this guy and I just don't care. I don't see the appeal of Rocky. First of all, I think I wrote a bunch of notes, as I always do during these. And I think my favorite note my most accurate note that I wrote was, this movie vastly overestimates how much I care about anything other than boxing. Because I don't care about Rocky and Adrian. I don't care about Rocky and Paulie. I don't care about anything having to do with Rocky. He's not interesting. He's not complex. He's just a guy. I also wrote in my notes, is Rocky good at boxing because he takes punches good? Like, I think that I don't even know if he's a good boxer. He just is really good at getting punched.
Sean, have you seen Rocky 3 yet?
No, I'm watching these all for the first time.
So I will just say to that last point, about him being good at taking punches. We'll say that is a viable strategy.
Oh, in
that
boxing,
is used heavily. It's used heavily. You've heard of the rope-a-dope?
Exactly. No, and I'm not complaining, and more power
that plays
to
a
Rocky.
big role in Rocky 3.
But the difference
I don't want to delve into it further because I don't want to spoil it, but it is very important to the plot of Rocky 3. But I kind of see your point. I mean, I don't know really anything about boxing, so I can't address if Rocky is a good or bad boxer. He has a lot of endurance, and yes, he can take a punch. He can take hundreds of punches, and that's probably an advantage. I mean,
just an insane amount of punches. Let's be clear. I mean, just a stupid amount of punches.
Yes, I mean, he goes to the hospital after the first match.
And in the rematch, I mean, he takes an ungodly number of punches straight to the face. I mean, to the point where it was almost funny.
Yes, I think I wrote in my notes, actually, this is painful to watch.
Yes.
This fight at the end was painful to watch.
It stopped being fun after a while.
It's like I'm just watching this guy get beaten. Two men just beating the stuffing out of each other, literally just blood flying and cuts and swollen eyes, and yeah, it gets pretty gruesome at the end. Like I know enough about boxing to know that, like, really old-timey boxing, I thought that was the one where the point was to, like, knock the person out physically. Mm-hmm. But I thought the point was just I thought the objective was to score points based on, like, where you hit and, like, your performance in the match. Like, I didn't think later boxing in, like, the 1970s and 80s was looking at knocking the other person out.
Boxing today still is knockouts.
I know knockouts do feature, but I thought that the point was to try to, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it more like Karate Kid. Maybe it's I'm looking at it like a karate match where you're supposed to score points and not physically dismember your opponent, but maybe that's just me. So you're not impressed by the character of Rocky, you said. You're not. You don't connect with them.
The thing is, I liked the boxing part of the movie. First of all, I do have to point out that the first 6 minutes of this movie is the fight from the last movie. So good job, Rocky 2, of showing me the thing I really liked from the first movie. But I also wrote in my notes, I have no stakes in this romance. It's like it's all this. First of all, they get married and have a baby in, like, no time at all. At lightning speed.
They couldn't spend a lot of time on that. I feel like this movie tried to address a big chapter of Rocky's life, and they had to kind of move a little quickly through it.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like,
I mean,
at some point,
that was one of your big complaints about the first movie. You said that it didn't move fast enough. That the first act was kind of like dragging its feet a little bit.
And I agree, this movie moved a heck of a lot faster, but what I was waiting for was there was no... Okay, let's talk about the coma for a second, which went on way too long. She was in a coma for like half the movie, it felt.
I do kind of agree with that. That did. I remember watching it the first time and being more upset than this second watch through, but I agree. The coma lasted a little long. I think it was they were trying to make it dramatize it, and
that's fine. But what I was waiting for was for them to use that for inspiration for Rocky. Like, at no point, I wanted the family aspect to somehow play into the boxing aspect, and to me that connection was never fully made. Like, I just needed a line from Rocky to say, "Oh, I'm not here doing it for my family, for Adrian," and it's like I never those points never connected, so they felt totally disparate to me. And it's like, I don't care about both sides of this man's life.
I think maybe it would have been better if they had timed the coma to have been at the same time as the fight instead of
Yes.
her battling through the, because then you would see like Rocky's struggle and Adrian's struggle. Like Rocky's fighting in the match, Adrian's battling for her life in a coma. I think it would have been a little more complimentary. Where
Yeah.
instead you just get Rocky kind of sulking around. Adrian's in a coma and he's just like looking at her for a really, really long time.
Forever.
Uh,
Well, and
and
also,
and
when he's setting up to go into the fight, right? It's about money. I need money to support my family, which I think is great, and that's a great plot line. And then they sort of just let it die off, and then they sort of like half switch to he's doing it for love. And I'm like, you should have had Creed mocking him for being poor, and you should have had, have him reinforce that. Like she gets into a coma because she was working at the pet store, but that's never hammered through. It's like all these little plot lines never really connect for me.
well, I think we established in the first movie that uh, Stallone is not he's not really I think he's more of an ideas guy. He's got these ideas, but the connection he doesn't really know how to tie them all together. So he just kind of throws everything on the screen and hope that hope that the audience can draw meaning from it.
Yeah,
I would have just kind of liked it to be moved around a little bit in like reordered,
yeah, I
and
mean,
maybe give him a different motivation for getting in the fight in the first place,
yes,
because he says no to Apollo, and because it's Creed that initiates it and wants the
which I
rematch.
love.
Uh, yes, but I like that Rocky turns him down at first, and then it kind of drives Creed crazy a little bit. Like he wants this rematch to happen. It's almost like Rocky's gaslighting Creed,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was cool, but like unintentionally. I just wish that the Rocky character had leaned into it a little more.
Well, like one of my favorite moments of the movie was the press conference between the two of them, where they have this great rapport where Apollo Creed is just going at him, and he's not going to stand a chance. I'm going to take him down in the second round. And Rocky, I had to look up this line because I really liked it. Rock, you got anything derogatory to say about the champ? Derogatory? Yeah, he's great. He has like a bunch of awesome one-liners, and the interaction between those, like, you know what I would have loved? A great scene would have been Apollo Creed secretly meeting Rocky in an alley somewhere, and them having a little bit of a heart-to-heart and a connection. Like, I want to see that. I don't want to see Adrian with a baby. Like, I don't care. Sorry, I don't mean to keep harping on it, but it's and it is one of those 1970s movies thing where they always have to have a romance angle. And I'm like, for my whole life, I've never seen these movies. Everyone's like, Rocky's the best boxing movie. Oh man, best sports movie, all about boxing. And I'm like, boxing is like maybe 30% of these movies, and that's like weirdly frustrating for me.
I don't know who's watching these movies for the boxing part of it. I mean, I think you're watching it as it's a life story. You're rooting for Rocky because he's the everyman, or he's supposed to be the everyman.
And that's fine. I'm
You know?
complaining about the expectations. I don't think you're wrong. And again, in 1970s cinema, this movie makes a lot of sense based on how movies were being done at the time. So I don't have a problem with the mixing the stories. Do they execute it perfectly? No. I just think the reputation I had coming into this was that this was a movie about boxing, and this is not a movie about boxing. This is a movie about Sylvester Stallone wanting to star in a movie.
I mean, I don't disagree with you about the first part. It's not about the boxing. The boxing is a vehicle to tell the story of this down on his luck, like blue collar worker who trains and tries really hard at something, and probably for the first time in his life he wins. He succeeds at his goal, and that has a ripple effect on success throughout his life. He beats up. He goes the distance with Apollo Creed. He gets the girl. In this movie, he beats Apollo Creed. He secures the girl and marries her and has a kid. It's about success. The rippling effects of success, I think, are the main themes throughout the Rocky movies, and that kind of extrapolates. Like Rocky 1 is about just Rocky the person. Rocky 2 is about Rocky and his relationships to primarily to his wife, to his coach, to his friends and things like that, his newborn son. Rocky 3, you'll see, will get into a little wider because Apollo is now going to join his circle, and it's just going to kind of grow. And then Rocky 4, I think you know the premise for Rocky 4. It's the
about
whole,
Rocky
it's the
literally
country.
saving the world. Yes, about ending the
Yes,
Cold
from
War.
communism. Yes. God, we're talking about quotable lines. Though that Rocky 4 has some real quotable
I'm
lines to it.
so excited for Rocky 4 because that's probably, to be honest, the Rocky movie I know the most about. Um,
If we could change, then we could all change. Yes. And
I must break you.
yeah.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, no, I well,
but
go ahead.
Oh no, so I was just saying it's every movie, just to kind of sum it up, is every movie is Rocky and the ripple effect that is coming from his success and how it's affecting the people around him.
I think that's great. I mean, and maybe I'm going to end up giving this movie more credit than I initially did. I mean, I think another really great part of this movie I enjoyed was when Rocky's trying to find a job. And he goes into these places and they say, you don't have even a high school diploma. You're clearly brain damaged. You can't see out of one eye. What are you going to do? There's a great, the guy says, can I be honest? No one's going to offer you an office job. There's too much competition. Why don't you fight? I read somewhere you're a very good fighter. And Rocky says, yeah, well, was you ever punched in the face 500 times a night? It stings after a while, you know? And I'm like, what an interest. We see that today with like football players and some of these contact sport athletes who don't know what to do after they retire. What is next for someone who's only ever done a sport for their entire career? That's a really interesting concept that this movie totally glosses over.
Well, his career is not over yet. His career is just beginning. You'll see. I'll just say that you'll see in the later movie, the more modern movies, that shows the post career Rocky, and I think it does a great job of showing it's a great character study of what an athlete looks like after their career is over, after their time on the field is over, and what they what becomes of them. So it's that Rocky. I keep calling it Rocky, and now I'm paranoid and afraid that that's not what the movie's called. Is that I'm talking about the movie that came out in the 2000s, the later one.
Because it was Rockies 1 through 5, then it was Rocky Balboa,
Right.
and then
Okay,
it was
that's
Creed
what I'm
and
talking
Creed
about.
2.
I'm talking about Rocky Balboa.
Yeah,
That's the
2006.
movie. That movie. That's the one I think that's going to answer a lot of your questions, because that movie like it really does answer everything about post career Rocky. But we're not there yet. This is Rocky is trying to find a steady job, in that doesn't involve boxing. I think that he should have, the first place he should have looked was the meat locker where he trained, because he was beating up that meat.
Yeah.
I think he could have got a job easily, just pulverizing that meat, marinating it. Mm-hmm.
That's a good
Or
thought.
he could be a tester, an egg tester, since he eats raw eggs.
Yeah, I mean, he could.
I'm convinced that's not how you actually would test eggs, but
Well, and I'll pivot over to one of his other failed jobs, TV pitchman. I wrote in my notes here, which I loved. Is there really a plot point that Rocky can't read? Which I appreciated, I guess, on some level.
that he can't read.
Yeah, that like it just seems like, and maybe back then it wasn't a cliche, but that seems like such a cliche where it's like, oh yeah, one more drama point. The dumb guy can't read.
Well, he can't read. Isn't it because he has a detached retina? Wasn't that the whole reason? Or was there something else going on?
No,
there might have been something else going on there.
because well, first of all, that commercial shoot for the cologne. To be fair to Rocky, the people making that commercial were very rude to him. Like, I'll give him credit. They were real dicks to that guy. But at one point, they have the cue cards where it's sort of written out as cue cards are, with sort of pauses and different, not sort of written out as plain language. And they say, get him the dummy cards, they say. And they pull out the simpler to read cards. So, at least the implication is that it's because he's dumb. You're right. It may have something to do with his eye. But he says he wants to practice reading at one point when they're in bed together, and he's reading. He said, "If I once I practice, I'll be really good at it." So, I mean, does he strike you as a guy who's a really excellent reader?
No, this is I think I now see, this is where I would have maybe changed the character. Maybe like maybe he has like this secret, but I guess that you can't really it's kind of late in the game to change that now. That would have had to have been established in the first movie, because Adrian is she's an avid reader. We learned that in the first movie.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it would have been cool if that was Rocky's like closet passion, was like reading like poetry or Shakespeare, but he has to keep up this like facade of being this like, you know, macho boxer. I don't know. I thought that would have been a little more interesting, and sometimes the character does come off as a little one note to me,
Well, he is
because
one note,
he's
and maybe
supposed to be the everyman, but to be an everyman, I think you kind of have to, you kind of have to be like a Joe six pack.
well, first of all, I think he's like a Joe one pack. But also, I think, I will give credit to the movie in that if you're gonna have a central character who is very arguably one note and is great at the boxing scenes and not a ton else, you have to surround that person with interesting characters. I think that is one thing the Rocky franchise does well, because, and I talked about how interesting it was that there were really no new characters in this movie, so now we have about 4 hours where we've been with the exact same people. I think Adrian has certainly more to do in this movie. Paulie, I think, actually has less to do in this movie, which is interesting. But obviously we have a lot more Apollo, we have a lot more Mickey. I think those characters, unlike other movies, help carry the slack left by the Rocky character, which I did appreciate, because it is a fully fleshed out cast of characters.
Yes, I agree with you about the side characters are so important. I just imagine these movies without the side characters. That was kind of, I kept coming back to that on the second watch through of these movies, is just imagine what this would have been like without any of the people around Rocky. If it was just Rocky, I don't think it would have had nearly as much success.
Well, I think, one interesting thing about Rocky, we'll talk about this more when we get later, a couple movies more into the franchise, is Rocky on some level is defined by his opponents. Apollo Creed, great Carl Weathers, doing a great job, an interesting character. We'll obviously talk about Clubber Lang, Ivan Drago. I think if you have him paired up against somebody who's weirdly interesting, I think that brings a lot more out of Rocky versus him just like boxing a guy.
Yeah, like I said before, it's about the relationships, and it's about the impact of Rocky's success. Really, I think that's the main theme to take away, is how does success impact the people around you?
Yep. Matt, can I ask you a couple of off-topic things?
Okay, go for it. I love off topic.
So a lot of this came from my notes here. First of all, which is better? The giant word Rocky that comes across the screen at the beginning of the movie, or the Star Wars crawl?
Which one is better?
Yeah.
I think they're both iconic in their own way, but I'm going to go with the Star Wars crawl just because it's more iconic.
It's awfully wordy, though. And it's at a slant. I mean, it's very hard to miss Rocky.
Yeah, but they're both fun. I think they're both fun in their own ways, but I think Star Wars is more recognizable, so I think it wins out in the end there.
Fair enough. I was very surprised to see it, because I liked it in the first movie. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then when they did it in this movie, I'm like, wait, they did it again and then just put the 2 at the end? Oh my God,
Yep.
We know what movie it's like. The first movie, you don't know who Rocky, like you didn't know, but now we know who Rocky is. It was a Best Picture winning film. You don't have to say Rocky again at the beginning.
Hey, this was a big time for stuff like that. Star Wars had just come out.
True.
So, it's a big it was a big time for ostentatious title credits, I guess.
Well, they want to make sure you didn't walk into the wrong movie.
Hmm.
Oh, wait, this is
Yeah,
Rocky 2? Oh, shit. It's supposed to be in the next theater over.
we were supposed to be going to see Jaws. Wild guess. Did Jaws come out in
Was that
'79?
19? That's an interesting question.
No, it did not. It came out in '75.
Well, I was going to say,
Dang.
Wikipedia says Rocky was the third best picture, most highest grossing films of 1979. How many other of the top 10 movies of I see I'm just going to put you on the spot every time. How many of the other top 10 movies of 1979 can you name?
Is one of them a James Bond movie? Is this another?
Yes, actually, one of them is a James Bond, number 9.
Oh, of course, of course. Was this Moonraker? Was when Moonraker
It
came
was
out?
Moonraker. Hey, very good.
Oh, boom. Okay,
Let's see.
nice.
There's a horror movie on this list.
'79 horror. It's still too late to be The Exorcist,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Too early to be Alien.
Well,
I think
Alien is on this list. 1979, number 6. That's not the movie I was talking
Oh,
about, but it is on this
I
list.
always okay. I thought Alien was early '80s. Okay, so that wasn't the movie we were talking about. There's a horror movie that came
Yes.
out in.
Yep. It was number 2.
Hmm.
It grossed more than Rocky 2. Highly successful.
Highly successful horror movie.
Let's just say,
79.
like a real haunted house movie.
It was House on Haunted Hill.
No.
Haunted house movie. Hmm. Yeah, I need more than that.
It did spawn several sequels and remakes, loosely based on a true story.
Amityville Horror.
Hey, there you go, Amityville Horror. Very good.
Oh, nice. Okay.
1979. Also on this list, The Muppet Movie, The Jerk, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and the highest-grossing movie of 1979, Kramer versus Kramer.
Wow. Big year for movies.
Yep. Rocky 2 did not win any Oscars, unsurprisingly. It wasn't even nominated for any.
This was also was this '79? Was this the year that was it the year of the Deer Hunter?
I don't think so. No, that was 78.
Okay, so I was gonna say that might have cleared house that year.
No, Kramer versus Kramer did in 79.
Kramer versus Kramer. Okay.
Yep, best picture. Matt, my second off-topic question for you: who do you think would win in 1979? Who do you think would win in a boxing fight? The actor Carl Weathers or the actor Sylvester Stallone?
The
So the actual real actors, if they had a real boxing match in 1979, who do you think would win?
I would say Carl Weathers.
That's what I would say. He was in better shape
my
than
best.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, he was. He looked to be more cut, but I think that a large part of that might have been because Sylvester Stallone was also directing, so maybe there was a lot of stress that went along with that. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, go.
Did you know Carl Weathers was? Yeah, I'm looking at Carl Weathers' Wikipedia page now, and I'm taking a glance at that, and I did not know that he is the same person that is in Happy Gilmore.
Yes, as Chubbs. Yeah.
Wow. He played Chubbs.
I
Chubbs
love
Peterson.
That is one of my favorite movies. I'm not a big Adam Sandler guy, but I do love Happy Gilmore.
Mm-hmm. Yes, as do I. Excellent movie. Apparently he had a small role in Toy Story 4, it looks like, as well.
Yeah, he voiced a character.
Combat Carl. Yeah, now I'm just looking at his filmography.
Yeah, really great.
Okay.
Did you ever see Arrested Development?
Yes.
Where he
Yes,
plays
yes.
himself?
Yeah.
Oh, he's so funny on
That was
that.
good. Great.
Yeah,
It's
Carl
a great
Weathers is the
show.
man. And then my final off topic question for you, Matt. What was with the baby with all the hair? Was that baby wearing a wig? That baby had a lot of
Uh,
hair.
yeah. That I think that baby was not truly a baby. I think it was a child disguised as it was playing a baby.
Well,
It was acting, Sean.
back in those days,
Acting.
it wasn't sort of out of line to have a little person play a baby in a movie. So, it was a different time.
Indeed. Yeah. So is that what you think? You think it was a little person?
No, it was a baby, but I just thought it was like, I've seen a lot of babies. I don't think I've ever seen a baby with that much hair. That baby had a lot of
Yeah.
hair. It was distracting.
Yeah. It was a mature looking baby, but hey, that you know what? It was acting. It was getting its chops, getting its feet wet for future roles.
Yep.
So, um, Sean, I want to ask you a question here.
Please do.
I'm gonna say, okay, uh, which which part of the movie would you say is your favorite?
What part of my movie would I say is my favorite? Like I said, I did really love the press conference between the two guys. Um, Gosh, just a lot of, or like when Apollo Creed was in his office and talking with his guys, and he's like, "You can't fight him. Let it go." I thought that was great too. Um, the fight. I mean, the fight at the end. Look, these movies are about the fight scenes. That's why they replayed the entire first one at the beginning of the movie. Maybe that was my favorite scene in the movie, the fight from the first one. Um, I think those are those are my favorite. I don't
I
know. What
got
about
okay.
you?
I've got. I would say probably the fight at the end. I don't see how you can think that's not the best part of this movie. It was awesome. That was I mean as gruesome as it was a pretty badass fight, I have to say.
Now, what did you think? Obviously, we didn't talk about one of the hallmarks of any Rocky movie, the montage, the training montage. A
Of
bit of a mix
course.
this time. We had Rocky working out in the gym, but we also had his iconic, once again, basically shot for shot remake of the running through the streets, except this time he's chased by about 800 school children, according to Wikipedia, who chased him through the streets and up the steps of the Philadelphia Art Museum. What do you think of this training montage?
It was kind of good. I didn't like it as much as the one from the first movie. The first movie is just it's too iconic and too good with him getting to the steps and running through the city and this one was all right. It was good in a different way. It reminded me a little bit of Temple of Doom.
Oh, yeah.
You know when when with the part with the kids at the end where they lift Indy up. That's just what I thought of this time watching it around.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was predictable. I think there was I did like that one shot they had where it's Rocky and then it is like a zillion kids running behind him in kind of a wide shot. And I thought that was just really appealing to look at. I just think it wasn't very original. They sort of did, and they used the same song, which hey, Gonna Fly Now, great song, #1 on the charts. But I'm excited for the sequel movies that actually have some new music.
Oh yeah, Rocky Three's got my opinion. I think well, it's got Eye of the Tiger,
Yeah, but
and then
you can't Rocky like a hurricane. You got Rocky 4. I own the Rocky 4 soundtrack on CD.
is Rocky Four the
Oh,
one
Rocky
that
4
you're
is
the
Eye of
best
the,
around?
No, Rocky 4 is Eye of the Tiger. And
Rocky, but it's introduced in Rocky Three.
right, and you're the
Yeah.
best around is from the Karate Kid.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean, a great.
Why don't we watch the Karate Kid, Sean? Why don't we
I've
just be
never seen
covering
any of
that?
those. We could watch all of those.
Oh, look at this. Okay, we might have something here.
Add it to the
Yes, you are
list.
right. That is the Karate Kid.
No, but Rocky 4. I mean, you've
Did
got
you know?
yeah.
Did you know Mr. Miyagi? I just learned this very recently. The actor who played Mr. Miyagi, was not from Japan.
Um. Yeah.
He was his real name his real name is Pat
Pat
Morita,
Morita.
and he was like I'm pretty sure he at least to some degree of Japanese ancestry, but he's from the United States. He's not like a fresh off the boat Japanese like speaker. I don't even know if he like grew up speak. He's from California.
Yeah, his father was born
His
in
dad,
Japan.
his father, yeah, his father was born in Japan, um, and yeah, they both emigrated to California. Him and his mom, but he, I just learned that recently that he was not like from Japan. If you watch an interview with him, like no accent, just complete like, uh, no accent at all. Nothing like what they portray him as in the movie. I mean, it's just it was just interesting to learn that later on.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. Um, now one. I got a couple of movie trivia facts to drop on you, Matt. If you're interested,
Okay.
do you know why? See, this is again, and this is one of those. We talked about this in the last movie. How a bunch of stuff was unplanned, and it's what made the last movie great. Where it's like his big oversized robe was an accident. His banner being wrong as a point of contention being by accident. The story part of Rocky surprising Creed by switching to fighting right-handed was not in the original script. It only came about because while getting in shape for the film, Stallone ripped his left pectoral muscle during a bench pressing contest with bodybuilder Franco Columbu and needed surgery. Therefore, he could not fight with his left hand.
Oh, I was actually just about to get into that.
Oh, see, I'm
Uh,
sorry. That's not nice
I
of
was
me.
no. It's fine. I was gonna tell you it's just weird how we established in the first movie, right, that Rocky is left-handed, like he's a
Southpaw.
southpaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, southpaw. So in this movie, he's writing with his right hand. He's signing autographs with his right hand. He like do his whenever there's like paperwork for like signing into the hospital room, right hand. It's just I thought it was just a continuity error, but I guess there's a real reason for that.
Yep. Yep.
Huh.
One other note: the film's ending fight sequence also posed a challenge because at the time Talia Shire was busy making another movie and couldn't be on set. So Stallone came up with the idea. That's why you have writer director Sylvester Stallone came up with the idea of having her watch the fight from home because of the new baby. Adrian scenes were
Mm.
actually filmed some months later, towards the end of the shoot.
I still think the like right there would have been a good opportunity to be like she stays in the coma until the end of the fight. As soon as I win the fight, as soon as Rocky wins the fight, Adrian wakes up from the coma. A nurse tries to tell her what happened, and she's like, "I already know. I already know
I
he
saw it
won."
in a dream. Uh,
Yeah,
I,
something like that.
I was genuinely expecting her to like drive to and show up at the arena at the end. Like that was my full expectation. Was like, oh no, she's not coming to the fight. And then like at the last minute when Rocky's about to lose, he sees her in the concourse like in the first
Oh,
movie, and he's like, oh Adrian, knocks out Apollo
he's
Creed.
inspired. Yeah, it spurs him on.
I
What
guess
is
it
the
did.
quote at the end? We did it. We did it, Adrian. We did it. We
Um,
won.
Actually, I do have the quote here if I can find it because it is pretty good. Um, Oh yeah, he says, "Excuse me, I can't believe this has happened. I can't, and I just want to say thanks to Apollo for fighting me, Apollo. I want to thank Mickey for training me. We love you, Rock. Yeah, I love yous too. I also want to thank God. Except for my kid being born, this is the greatest night in the history of my life. I just want to say one more thing to my wife who's home. Yo, Adrian, I did it.
Yeah. Well done. Did you practice that?
It was a very bad impression. Um,
Think you. It sounds like you
it's
rehearsed
about
that.
as good as my Jesse Ventura.
I felt like I was watching the movie there for a minute.
I just played the clip. You couldn't tell.
Yeah. No, not at all. So Yeah, I still enjoyed this movie. Um, I think it holds up over in some ways over the first one. I like the pacing of it a little bit more,
Sure.
but at the same time, yeah, there's still. I mean, it's not perfect. I think the part with the extended coma could have been fixed. They could have moved some things around, but I think the pacing was more on point. It was a little more interesting,
Yeah.
and of course they give you a little bit more about Apollo Creed. It makes you a little more invested in this.
And I
So
think there were more fun moments too. I mean, I think the first movie, I mean, it won Best Picture. I mean, it was a drama, and there was a few little jokes here and there, but it really wasn't meant to do that. I think this movie does a better job of mixing with the tone a little bit throughout, which I appreciated because this isn't, especially in the sequel, it's not a serious topic. This isn't well, I guess it is a life or death thing, but it really isn't. I mean, it's the kind of thing it's a silly concept. I mean, Rocky is theoretically a silly character. So you want to have some amount of levity in the film to break up the more serious moments. I thought this movie did a better job of balancing those tones to keep me entertained throughout the movie.
yeah, it was it was a good mixture of things that kept you invested. And I just accidentally clicked on the Wikipedia article for retinal detachment, so I'm going to click
Yeah,
back right
I was gonna
now.
say make sure you look
Those
for
are some
photos.
very gruesome photos. Um, yeah, because that's part of the story that his doctors recommend that he stops Rocky stops fighting, or he'll be blind forever. That's something I really wish throughout all these movies. It shows the heroic and the like the valiant side of boxing, but it doesn't really get to the dark, ugly side. I mean, I guess the later movies kind of like glance on that, but like I mean, not that I mean this would be just horrible, but like it should. I think it should be kind of looking at you know the permanent, long lasting damages that a sport like boxing can have on someone. Like it's fame does not come without its cost. I guess would be the theme that I would have at least put somewhere in one of these movies. Like
Yeah, even Mickey Burgess Meredith. I think obviously he was a fighter in the 20s, and we see him. He starts to wear the earpiece in this movie. I think we could have seen more boxing effects on him, and how Rocky seeing that would affect him.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. That is interesting that you mention Burgess Meredith and Mickey, the character Mickey. So it's we'll he'll his role will definitely change in the next movie. It's gonna be a change for sure.
Bill, I'll be honest. Would I have watched these movies if not for the show? No. Will I ever watch them again? Probably not. But I am glad we're watching them, and I am excited for them to get zanier. So we've got that working for us.
Is it time to give it our bell rating? Was that
Yes,
how we're
it
doing it?
was
Was it bell or
it
rounds?
was
Rounds. It was
rounds.
rounds.
Out of 15
Yeah.
rounds, how far does Rocky 2 go?
Right.
I think you and I both, we were like, what, like 12, 13 on Rocky 1? Or I think we were
I,
both 13,
yes.
which is
I was gonna say 12, but
12. Okay. Well,
maybe
nobody's
yeah.
counting. Nobody's counting. 12 is fine. The
How
question is,
many rounds did Rocky 2 go?
yes, Matt, how many rounds would you say?
I see. I went first last time, so I think it's
Hmm.
you got to give me
That's fair.
your
That's fair.
impression.
That's fair. Uh, I'm gonna say in this one, it doesn't quite go the distance as Rocky 1. But I don't think Rocky 1 was a far superior film. So I'm going to say Rocky 2. If Rocky 1 went 12 rounds, then I'm going to say Rocky 2 gets knocked out in the ninth round. Halfway through, nine and a half, halfway through the ninth round.
Okay. See, I would say I would probably put it up a little higher.
Oh, okay.
I would say that it makes it to the 12th round and then gets knocked out in the beginning of the 13th.
Okay, so just
Like the
just a
like
little bit
the very
farther.
beginning of, yeah, the 13th just like starts and then it's on the ground. Yeah. It can't go no more. And there ain't gonna be no rematch. Not this time.
Nope. Although we do have a few more movies of Apollo Creed, which is great.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, fantastic. When are we gonna get? Carl Weathers is still around and alive. When are we gonna get the? Well, I guess we did have the Creed spinoff,
Yeah.
but I was gonna say when does he get? We got the. I don't know. Maybe it's time.
Um. Yeah. No.
Great.
He's definitely an interesting. He's an interesting character. Um. Absolutely interesting character for sure. And he really can't wait to see. Can't wait to see what he. I can't wait for you to see like kind of how his character changes quite a great deal. I think. Throughout the next couple of movies, and I can't wait to see your impressions of that.
I also just read that Hulk Hogan is in Rocky 3, so I'm actually pretty
Yes,
excited for the
yes, he
third one.
is, and so is Mr. T. Mr.
Mr.
T
T,
is like the main.
Clubber
He's kind
Lang.
of the main. Yeah, Clubber Lang. He's the main villain there, the main antagonist.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Eye the Tiger, one of my favorite songs. I'm excited. This is what a treat. Uh, Matt, that concludes our viewing of Rocky 2. We're 2 movies into this 7-movie series, 8-movie series. So we're a quarter of the way there.
Yeah,
Still a lot of Rocky ahead of us.
there is. There's a lot of people don't. I think they don't appreciate the vast Rocky lore there is out there. But we've got a lot of it. We're kind of wading deep. I think we're like knee deep in it now.
I think the
So
real question is, once we're done with the movies, are we going to read the novelization of the movies?
um, I just discovered that those existed actually researching for this show. I did not know that there was novelization, but sure, I'd read them. I would read the. I think one of them Stallone wrote one of them, or maybe probably more than one of them.
He definitely
I know he
wrote.
definitely wrote Rocky 2.
Yeah, he wrote the first one as well. So I don't know exactly how many he did, but he wrote most of them, which is just absolutely. And they're written from the perspective of Rocky, if I understand correctly. Um,
Oh, okay, like a first person.
right. Um,
Okay.
but they're also, as I Google it frantically, seems like they're pretty much all out of print. So, oh my god, there's an audio
Why would that
book.
be?
Hang on.
Read by Stallone?
If it is, I might
I'd be
actually.
on board.
That's pretty
I know what I'm
damn
spending my
impressive.
credit on this month. My Audible credit is going straight to that.
That's awesome. No, I don't think. Oh boy, there are a lot of romance books on Audible.
Oh yeah, yeah, big market for that.
Because I searched Rocky and
Sean,
it's
if you're
like,
ever looking for a if you're looking for a quarantine hobby, to date this episode, writing romance novels and recording them for Audible, not a bad gig.
oh yeah,
They seem like they're always in demand.
got a real sexy voice. Oh my god, there's so many of these. This does seem like a funny topic for us to cover. Like, there are podcasts that review romance books, but I don't know of any that review romance audiobooks. A Rocky Mountain Romance, part of the Wyoming Mountain Tales. They have like pictures of horses on the covers. We're getting off topic, but this is buck wild. Oh, this one's a werewolf. Rocky the werewolf. Maggie is on the run from those who killed her husband 9 months ago. She knows the only one who can help her is Rocco, a grisly shifter she knew in her youth. She arrives on his doorstep in labor with twins, magical shape-shifting bear cub twins destined to lead the next generation of were creatures in North America. This is crazy.
I bet that book probably made a good chunk of money too.
There's a book in the series called Mating Dance where it's a half naked man and a picture of a bear on the cover. I don't know if he has sex with the bear. Tom, Grizzly Cove's only
Oh, see,
lawyer, is also a badass grizzly bear. It says badass grizzly bear, but he's met his and Ashley, the woman he just can't get out of his mind.
and we just had a whole month where I could make you do anything for this show. I could have made you read those books,
Oh,
reviewed them.
We've got Sean Tember coming
Totally
up.
missed opportunity. Missed opportunity. Hopefully, you'll forget about these books by then.
Oh, look, this one shifts into a giant panda and they have sex.
Sounds like somebody's got a book list developing as we speak.
I gotta get more Audible credits.
Added to favorites.
Oh boy,
What
Matt.
read later?
Well, we were so manly today talking about Rocky. I had to kind of get us back to something a little more sensitive.
Balance it out. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
get
god.
that.
Could you imagine spending 20 hours listening to a poorly written romance book?
I would do it for money
Is there
if somebody paid me to do it, but otherwise probably not.
you be careful what I make you do during my month. It's tempting.
Sean Tember.
Just Matt's torture month. Matt, I think that wraps us here. We're going to be back next week with Rocky 3, which will be a ton of fun. If you didn't listen to last week's episode where we talked about Rocky, you should do that. For debate.tv is our website. You can go there and get all the past episodes. You can also subscribe to the show wherever you get podcasts with the video version on YouTube as well. And of course, you can follow us at Up for Debate TV on Twitter and email us upfordebatetv@gmail.com. But that's going to do it. We've been knocked out, so we're going to wrap it up here. On behalf of Matt, I'm Sean. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another Up for Debate Presents.